gentlemen.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself.
The man of the hour.
And let me tell you something, Daddy.
When you're the man, you make history every time you step foot in this ring.
And that's the bottom line.
Of the Sweet Wrestling Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 59 of the Sweet Wrestling Podcast. Yes, indeed, that is just, I am here. We got a lot to talk about. Justice for Asuka. Hashtag give SmackDown women a chance. Do the ladies, or should the ladies want to follow Kofi and Daniel MORE at WrestleMania? Could that be a dangerous thing? Not a lot of people are talking about that. Plus more, also best thing, funniest thing in the new segment, number one spot. So, if you don't know where to find me, just head to Twitter at 2SweetPod. Follow my personal account as well at OMGCoreyB. But if you find me at 2SweetPod, you can find all the listings where you can find me at, where you can follow me at. Feel free to give me a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. Follow me on YouTube. And Periscopers, feel free to follow me if you haven't followed me already. So we're not going to waste any more time. I'm going to hop right on into this thing. Best thing, funniest thing. The best thing of the week was the gauntlet match. Big E and Xavier Woods, they sent Kofi to a WrestleMania. That was a phenomenal match. I think the highlight of the match was the Usos coming down. They come down and I'm like, they're going to lay down, aren't they? And they forfeit their spot. Highlight of the match, crowd pops, and eventually the New Day go on to win the match. Phenomenal moment. Even though I didn't really like a tag team gauntlet match deciding the title, still a cool moment nonetheless. Funniest thing of the week, Triple H in that letter, he's trying to cut a promo on Batista and he just cannot get the letter out of his jacket pocket. Was hilarious to me. Anything funny that happens to Triple H, I find it hilarious for whatever reason. That was the funniest thing of the week. He finally got it out and said he was doing a job for the letter. That's the first time he's ever did a job, but not the first time, but you get the point. So, moving on. New segment of the week, number one spot. Number one spot will be a thing to where I look at the number one anything of the week. I could be looking at the number one wrestler of the week, number one announcer of the week, number one fan of the week. This week, it will be the number one wrestler, the number one storyline, and the number one tag team. By number one, I mean the most interesting of the week. And we're going to start with the number one wrestler of the week. How could I go anywhere else? Kofi Kingston, baby. He is the most intriguing wrestler of the week. He will be at WrestleMania. He has punched his ticket, and it is the most intriguing storyline, as well as we headed to the number one storyline of the week, the most intriguing storyline, Kofi and Daniel MORE. I'm so much interested in it. It should be the main event of WrestleMania. I'll get into that later as well. And also, the number one tag team of the week, Ricochet and Aleister Black, as they won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and they will be heading on to NXT TakeOver to take on the Raw Raiders, I cannot wait to see how that all turns out. Those are my number one wrestler, number one storyline, and number one tag team of the week, ladies and gentlemen. So, moving on to the topics at hand, hashtag justice for Asuka. So, we all know the situation, but if you've been living under a rock, Asuka lost the title to Charlotte Flair, and man, I look at the situation, and the first thing I said, right when Charlotte came to the ring, and right when they said this would be for the SmackDown Women's Championship, I said, whoa. I did the Shannon Sharp gif. And like the first thing I thought was, oh man, Asuka's going to get screwed here. And the first thing I tweeted was, I'm going to set something on fire if Asuka loses here. That's what kind of mood I was in. I ain't set nothing on fire, but I was in that type of mood because I knew what was coming. So Asuka not only loses, but she taps out to Charlotte again. Like they couldn't come up with another way for her to lose. Sheesh, man. So I look at it now and I'm like, bro, what more does Asuka have to do? She got herself over in NXT. Hugely over with the fans. Had the undefeated streak in NXT. Came to WWE. Had the undefeated streak. Got over with the fans. won the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, was over with the fans. And at the end of the day, the only thing what was left was for Asuka to capture that championship. And we was all waiting for the moment. Got down to WrestleMania, she taps out, she loses her undefeated streak. And from there on in, she goes and she does absolutely nothing. Pretty much might as well have been stuck in catering. Because from there, she got the title shot against Carmella and was made to look like an absolute idiot with James Ellsworth in that storyline. And through all of that, we come back to Asuka. She gets another chance. She wins the match against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Is over with the fans despite all of it. Why? Because we love Asuka. And here it is. And she loses again. She doesn't even have a WrestleMania matchup at the moment. I'll get into that later as well. And like, here it is. I'm just left with things to ponder about. At first, I went through a stage of anger. It's like, man, why are they doing Asuka like this? And then I'm trying to find a phase of why did this happen? And the only thing, it leaves me to ponder things that I don't want to ponder about. I was sitting, I had a quiet moment at the SmackDown, and I thought, man, is it because she's Asian? Because we see the Asian wrestlers get the shaft in so many ways in WWE. I stuff for black wrestlers in WWE. Man, Asian wrestlers get the shaft in WWE at times as well. It doesn't matter how successful they get. It's like always something happens. Like even going back to the Royal Rumble, not this past Royal Rumble, but the Royal Rumble before it, when Nakamura and Asuka won their respective Royal Rumbles, I thought, man, this is a big moment for Asian wrestling, for WWE to have them both win the Royal Rumble, and like eventually the storylines just faded after that. Like it's like they never had any type of long-term plans for them whatsoever. They tried a heel turn with Nakamura, then it went absolutely nowhere, and he's still suffering because of that. He just has never picked himself up off the mat because they have no long-term plans for the guy. And same with Asuka. It's like they have no long-term plans with Asuka, and I don't expect Vince McMahon, and obviously he doesn't see Asuka in the same way that we see Asuka, or he doesn't value Asuka in the same way that we value Asuka. Sure, he has Asuka towards the top, but Asuka just doesn't fit the mold. I guess it's because she's not blonde enough. Because look, bruh, if Asuka were American and Asuka fit the mold, like I don't think Asuka would be going through this. That's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong about that. I'll accept that if I'm totally wrong about that. But I don't think she would be going through the booking that she's been going through. She's the most talented wrestler on that roster. And when I look at the situation, I look at Charlotte Flair, and man, Charlotte Flair doesn't even deserve this or need it. Bruh, like Charlotte Flair is an 8-time women's champion, and like I look at it and I think, man, Charlotte is not Hulk Hogan, man. If you want to say Charlotte is the best in the division, I would disagree with you. I happen to think that Becky Lynch is the most talented personality and the most talented on the mic, and I think Asuka is the better wrestler. But if you want to say that Charlotte is the best, I understand it because Charlotte is phenomenally talented, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. But she is not that much more talented than the rest of the top women that are at the top of the roster for WWE. She's not Hulk Hogan, man. She doesn't even need this going into this title match at WrestleMania. And I look at the situation and I say, man, they couldn't put Asuka in a fatal 4-way in that match. If Asuka's gonna lose anyways, at least let her have the moment at WrestleMania when she's sharing the ring with Rousey, Flair, and Lynch, excuse me. At least let her have that moment. But here it is, we sit here 1 week out until WrestleMania. Asuka has no match whatsoever. Maybe she'll get thrown in a battle royal. Like, that's so depressing to me. Asuka means so much more to this company than just a stupid placeholder of a title that just get the scraps that are left over. She means so much more. That's just my opinion, man. And when I look at this situation, finally you say why, and I look at the reports that say initially WWE came out and said it's still just for the Raw Women's title. Dave Meltzer had a report that says it could eventually turn into a winner take all. That is the main event I'm talking about for WrestleMania. It could turn into a winner take all. And I'm just thinking, some way, somehow, we're going to have this stupid moment. And this is no diss to the ladies because I love all of them. We're going to have a moment where 4 horsewomen come out and they raise up all the belts. That's what I think we're building to. And so help me God, if I value kayfabe, especially inside the ring. There's some things I can look over, but I can't look over things inside the ring. If Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch have a moment after the match to where they look over their differences and shake hands, or if Becky comes down and Bayley and Sasha comes down and they raise hands with them because they've overlooked their differences and they all have titles, I would want to throw up. Because, like, man, okay, Bayley and Sasha can come down and have a moment with Becky. I don't necessarily have a moment with that, have a problem with that, even though I think that Becky needs to have her own moment. But all 4 of them cannot do that. Oh, that would make me so mad. If they want to have a real moment, have all 4 of them get in the ring and just have Asuka come down and destroy all of them and hold up all 4 belts to close the show. I love that. Since I love it, that means it's not going to happen. So moving on, give SmackDown women a chance. Hashtag give SmackDown women a chance. It was supposed to be Carmella, Naomi, excuse me, just having a brain freeze right here. Mandy Rose and goodness, Deville, man. Wow, I just had a brain freeze right there. Goodness, that match was supposed to go down. The winner was supposed to take on the SmackDown champion. And when Charlotte won the match against Asuka, I was like, okay, is the SmackDown 4-way women's match still going to go down? What's going on here? And obviously, it gets taken away. So we had this big old deal on Monday morning throughout the evening where the women's title match got announced as the main event for WrestleMania. We had this big women's empowerment moment where we're talking about how it's such an empowering moment for women to be main eventing WrestleMania. And I was all for it. I was like, yeah, it is a hugely empowering moment. And it's like 1 step forward and 10 steps back. You have that moment Monday, and then we get to Tuesday night, and it's like, forget all that women's empowerment stuff. Forget that. Oh, we can have women's empowering for Raw, but when it comes to SmackDown, you ladies got to sit in the back and cater it for WrestleMania. That's what it was, man. And like, I look at it, and there was a report from Dave Meltzer that came out that said that Vince McMahon did not want Asuka to be in the match, or that no one would care about. And whose fault is that? Me speaking personally, I would have cared about it if you'd had Naomi or Nikki Cross in there. But speaking personally, whose fault is it that these women aren't built up properly enough? If you look at it, you never gave them a chance to get built up to a point to where they would look like a legitimate competitor to Asuka. What have these women been doing over the past few months? Naomi, what has she been doing over the past few months? Messing around with Mandy Rose. This stupid storyline. Of course she wasn't going to get over like talking about it. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, what have they been doing over the past few months? With Naomi, and when they haven't been doing that, they've been going back and forth with Asuka, and nothing matches to where the championship wasn't even the focus of the program. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville arguing was the focus of the program. And like, at the end of the day, none of these ladies could get over. Carmella, the only thing I remember her doing in the past few months of note was teaming with Naomi. And these women cannot get over like that. Like, once Asuka went on ice after she tapped out Becky Lynch and was never heard from again, the rest of the locker room went on ice because they had nothing to fight over. The only thing they had to fight over was the women's tag team titles, and we knew those were going to Bayley and Sasha, so that never made sense from the start as well. So when you say that, and it's reportedly, but I like to use my wrestling intuition on these things, and I can see that happening. Like, I can see Vince McMahon looking at it and saying, you know what? No one fits here. And it shows in the booking because Asuka didn't have a match 2 weeks out from WrestleMania. They didn't build towards anything as well. So it's their fault. And I look at Twitter throughout the week, and there's a segment of people saying that, you know what, it's a good thing. They need to unify the titles anyway, because you know what? There's not enough women to go around for 2 titles. Yes, there is enough women to go around and have 2 titles. You just have to use them properly. You never built them up from the start. I mean, I look at SmackDown when we had that initial brand split where it was Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan leading the way, and they had that Land of Opportunity tagline, and that wasn't just a tagline, it was a real deal. Like, we had fluid SmackDown women's title feuds. They were doing a great job of scheduling 2 feuds. Like, not just the women's title feud, but they have a women's feud on the side that was really important. And Becky won. Names that were just getting held down started winning the titles. Naomi won the title at one point, if I'm not mistaken. And we just do not have that anymore. We spent all that time on Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, and I'm not hating on Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, but you didn't build anyone else up. If you would have taken the time to build someone else up months ago, you wouldn't have this problem. Like, say if they would have tried to build Naomi up months ago, let her have a great showing in the Royal Rumble and continuously build her up to the moment of facing Asuka, we would have had a legit women's title match. But because they didn't plan anything out, they had all their eggs in the women's triple threat match at Mania. They just overlooked the SmackDown women's title match, and nothing was of a note of importance to put there against Asuka because it's their fault, not those women's fault. And sometimes the moment makes the person. I've always argued that, you know, back when it was Lesnar against Reigns, I was like, put someone else there, build them up, and put them in a match against Lesnar, have them win, and maybe sometimes the moment being in there with Lesnar makes the person, and they would never do it outside of randomly bringing someone up 1 month and just shoving them in there with Lesnar, and then having Brock Lesnar dominate the match, and then have the other guy have a hope spot and then lose to Lesnar. Like, you have to build someone up. Maybe the moment makes the person, and maybe if Naomi would have gotten into a WrestleMania match with Asuka, it would have made her, and eventually you could have built her up into a win at a Summer pay-per-view or at a Summer Slam. So sometimes the moment makes the person, and WWE just doesn't seem to realize that when it comes to the SmackDown women's division, excuse me. So moving on. This was supposed to be my lead topic before just all chaos broke loose on SmackDown. Kofi and Daniel Bryan. Should the women not want to follow this match? Look, this is the best storyline by far in WWE that we have going heading into WrestleMania. It is the best story. And sometimes, most times, pretty much all the time, the best story should be the main event, especially when you have 2 talented wrestlers in that storyline. If it's the best story by far, that thing should be the main event. That's just my opinion. It should main event WrestleMania. But here we are, and I thought back to a couple of other matches. Taker and Michaels and Hogan versus The Rock. And look, I'm not here to say that Kofi and Daniel Bryan are those guys. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Those are Hall of Fame legends. Now, some would consider Daniel Bryan a legend, and I consider him maybe a legend in his own right, a legend of his era, but I can't yet put him up with those guys. I love Kofi as well, can't put him up there with those guys. But here's the deal. Those 2 matches, Hogan, Rock, Taker, HBK, those were the best stories by far. And you hear the stories of Chris Jericho talking about how he did not want to follow Hogan Rock. And you hear the stories about Triple H and Orton. They years ago, they said that they did not want to follow Taker and Shawn Michaels. Here's what happened. Those matches happened. They were the best story by far. And you know the rest. The crowd was heavily invested into those matches. And by and large, those two matches were the main events of those WrestleManias. By far, that's when we look back at those two WrestleManias, we remember those matches. Hogan and Rock, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker as the matches. And I'm just saying, that's what we could have here at this WrestleMania. Look, at the end of the day, I don't want a dead crowd for Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey. That's what we got in those main matches. When it came down to Triple H and Jericho and Triple H and Orton, it's just so funny that Triple H just so happened to be the guy that followed both of those guys. We got dead crowds, entire crowds, because they were worn out by those matches. And we have a 7-hour pay-per-view more than likely. The last two WrestleManias have gone 1 hour over, and that could happen again. And I don't want that for the women. You know, we have that long of a pay-per-view. Obviously, the crowd can pick up towards the end when the match picks up, but I want a hot crowd from the start. I'm very worried because the crowd is going to be tired. The crowd is going to get up for Kofi. Kofi is more than likely going to win that title, and the crowd is going to lose it. And by the time we get to the women, I'm afraid the crowd is just going to be done. Now, what the women have going for them that Triple H and Jericho or that Triple H and Orton didn't have is that this match is guaranteed to technically be fine. I didn't like Triple H and Jericho. I for sure didn't like Triple H and Orton. That was a horror fest. But I know that these ladies are going to put on a show from an in-ring perspective. But you know how things go. Sometimes it doesn't matter how great the match is. If the crowd is dead, if the crowd is tired, it really takes away from what could be an in-ring classic. And these ladies could put on an in-ring classic, but they could probably be in front of a dead crowd. So I would not take any risk. And on top of this, it's not guaranteed that the weather is going to be fine as well, because we're down east and New York had been going through some serious rainstorms last I checked. I don't know what the weather's going to be like at WrestleMania. We'll see. But if you get a cold WrestleMania, somewhat rainy WrestleMania, I wish against that. I hope the weather is just fine. But that could go against the ladies as well. The crowd is going to get up for Kofi Kingston no matter what. To see that guy raise that title up, they're going to be in it for the near falls. And I guarantee you put that match before the women, like, I'm going to be worried. Guaranteed I'm going to be worried. I'm going to be happy that Kofi wins. That's all I'm here for at this point for WrestleMania. I'm here to see Kofi win. And that could be what a lot of people feel, because the women's storyline has just gone down. It just hasn't been the same. Just hasn't been what it was. And I'm worried about that. We'll see how it all turns out. I hope for the best. I hope it is a molten lava hot crowd from the start, and the women go at it. I wish the best for them. We'll see how it all turns out. So last up for the day, I see a lot of discussion going on about how this Kofi Kingston storyline needs to lead to a New Day turn. And look, I get it. It is very intriguing. I get it. Like, I get that Kofi could get to the top of the mountain. We can have that big glorious moment. And Xavier Woods gives the thumbs down that Triple H gave to Batista. And when Orton was on his shoulders and he drops Orton back, and we could have that moment, and it would be a sad moment. It would be a crazy moment to see the New Day beat down Kofi Kingston. Would be a monumental moment. I get it, how intriguing it was. And to be honest, when you look at this storyline, Big E, low-key, has turned into a star. Like, he has star potential. You can see it in his promos when he went back and forth with Vince. You can see it in his matches, especially in that tag team gauntlet. When that guy gets going, man, it is just an impressive feat to watch. The guy has it all. He has the look that Vince McMahon so covets. He's loved and adored by the fans. He can go on the microphone. He's a great promo. And he has personality as well. He's going to be a future star in this company if they so choose to go that route with him. So I understand it. If Big E were to go after the title, it would be a huge hit. But here's the deal. It's too early. Like, it is too early to split these guys up. We have a phenomenal storyline going. Like, let's let this thing play out. Let's see how far, if that's possible, if Kofi wins, let's see how far this title reign goes. And let's see, you know what? Let's have Kofi and Daniel Bryan have a nice feud. I don't know if Kofi gets to hold on to the title past then. You know, I don't know what's going to go down. I just think that he's going to win at WrestleMania. I hope he's going to win at WrestleMania. I hope he doesn't turn into a Booker T situation to where I get my hopes all the way up and they have him lose at WrestleMania. Boy, I would be beyond ticked if they do that. But assuming he wins, I like to see him have a prolonged title run. It doesn't have to be that long, but I want to see how long the interest lasts in the Kofi Kingston title reign before we decide to have a turn from the New Day. Like, I think there's potential there. There's huge potential, huge interest there. I don't know who would face off against Kofi Kingston, whether that's Big E, that would be my choice, or whether we do a New Day triple threat to where it's Xavier, Kofi, and Big E. That could work as well. But Big E is obviously the star of this faction, and Big E versus Kofi would be money. If you run a storyline to where Big E is tired of just helping Kofi, looking after him, and Big E wants the title. Big E wants the fame, he wants the fortune. I could buy that for $1 because Big E has the personality to pull that off, the personality to be a heel. He can pull that off big time, but not right now. Let me enjoy this moment, man. I personally have a chance to see, and I don't want to go personal here, but I have a chance to see a black man win the world title. And just let me enjoy that for that minute, for that little bit of time. Let's have Kofi have a sustained run. And then maybe we could talk about splitting him up. Let's let the New Day support him for now. So those are the topics today. Let me know your thoughts on any of these topics. Big E, the New Day, give SmackDown Women a chance, justice for Asuka, the women's title match at WrestleMania. Let me know all of your thoughts on that and more at 2SweetPod on Twitter or at OMG Corey B. Let me know your thoughts.